In the winter of 1636, a sailor walking through the docks of Amsterdam spotted what he thought was a common onion sitting on a merchant's counter. Being hungry, he took out his knife, peeled it, and ate it with a piece of red herring. He didn't know that he had just consumed a fortune. That onion was actually a Semper Augustus tulip bulb. By the time the merchant realized what happened, the sailor had already finished his meal. The cost of that breakfast? It was enough to pay the wages of the entire ship's crew for a year. In today's money, that sailor had just eaten $250,000. How did the world reach a point where a flower, a biological organism that lives for a few weeks, became more valuable than a house, a ship, or a lifetime of labor? This isn't just a story about gardening. This is the autopsy of the world's first recorded speculative bubble. This is the moment when human greed disconnected from reality and attached itself to a petal. This is Tulip Mania.
To understand the madness, you have to understand the wealth. In the early 1600s, the Dutch Republic was the center of the universe. The Dutch East India Company, the VOC, was the most powerful corporation to ever exist. Amsterdam was the world's bank, and its citizens were the wealthiest people on the planet. But wealth creates a specific kind of problem: the need for status. Enter the tulip. Originally brought from the Ottoman Empire, tulips were unlike anything Europeans had ever seen. Their colors were intense, saturated, and exotic, but they were difficult to grow. They took years to bloom from a seed. They were rare, and in the 17th century, rarity equaled power. By the 1630s, the tulip had become the ultimate flex. If you were a wealthy merchant, you didn't just want a garden, you wanted a tulip garden. It was the Lamborghini of the Dutch Golden Age. But then something strange happened. Some tulips began to break. Instead of a solid color, they developed beautiful, flame-like stripes of red, purple, and white. To the Dutch, this was a miracle. They called these broken tulips. What they didn't know was that these stripes weren't a miracle, they were a disease. It was a mosaic virus that weakened the bulb while making the flower look beautiful. Because the virus made the bulbs weak and difficult to reproduce, the supply vanished while the demand exploded. The most famous of these was the Semper Augustus. At the height of the mania, there were only 12 of these bulbs in existence. One single bulb was sold for 5,500 guilders. To put that in perspective, a master carpenter earned about 250 guilders a year. People were trading 20 years of hard labor for a single root. By 1636, the professional florists were no longer the only ones in the market. The smart money had been joined by the dumb money. Chimney sweeps, bakers, and sailors were entering the trade. But tulips only bloom in the spring. You can only move the bulbs in the summer. So how do you trade them in the winter? The Dutch invented a solution that we still use today, the futures contract. They called it windhandel, literally the trade in wind. You weren't buying a bulb, you were buying a piece of paper that promised you a bulb in the future. No money changed hands, no flowers moved. It was pure speculation based on the hope that someone else would pay more for that paper tomorrow. The trading didn't happen in banks, it happened in colleges, back rooms of smoky taverns. Fueled by beer and wine, the prices began to decouple from the earth. Between November 1636 and February 1637, the price of tulips rose by 2,000%. The records of these trades are a forensic look at insanity. One famous trade for a single viceroy bulb included 2 loads of wheat, 4 loads of rye, 4 fat oxen, 8 fat swine, 12 fat sheep, 2 hogsheads of wine, 4 tons of beer, 2 tons of butter, 1,000 pounds of cheese, a complete bed, a suit of clothes, and a silver drinking cup. People were selling their businesses and their family farms to buy a contract for a flower they had never seen. Denial was at an all-time high. Everyone believed that the prices would go up forever. Everyone believed they would find a greater fool to buy their contract. But the problem with a trade in wind is that eventually the wind stops blowing.
The end came on February 3, 1637, in the city of Haarlem. A routine auction was held at a local tavern. A trader offered a bundle of bulbs for 1,250 guilders. No one bid. He lowered the price to 1,100. Silence. He lowered it again. Nothing. Like a lightning strike, the realization hit the room. The flowers weren't worth the paper they were written on. The panic spread through the taverns of Holland like a wildfire. Suddenly, everyone wanted to sell, and no one wanted to buy. Within days, bulbs that were worth the price of a mansion were now worth the price of a common onion. For years, historians claimed that Tulip Mania destroyed the Dutch economy. Modern research shows that wasn't exactly true. The real economy, the ships and the spices, survived, but the psychology of the people was permanently scarred. The government refused to enforce contracts. The colleges in the taverns went silent. The tulip became a symbol of shame rather than status. Why does Tulip Mania matter in 2025? Because we haven't changed. The tulip bulb was replaced by dot-com stocks in 1999, by subprime mortgages in 2008, and by digital JPEGs and meme coins in the 2020s. The asset changes, but the anatomy of the crash remains the same. First, rarity, then hype, then the disconnection from value, and finally, the silence of the auction room. This is Capital Autopsy. Make sure to subscribe before the next bubble pops.